Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly. We're back with another East Tennessee fishing report with Ellis Ward. Ellis, how are you?
I am doing well, Marv. How are you?
As always, just trying to stay out of trouble. And, I know from just watching, one, how you've been slightly incommunicado at odd hours. And also watching your Instagram feed that you have been mousing 24/7, 365.
Yeah, mousing and muskie. And it's sort of and I know we were just talking about this, and I don't want to come across as disingenuous when I say things like I'm pushing more stuff towards mousing and muskie, and that all of this stuff that I talk about with guiding, I'm very proud of guiding this way because I do it. And it's not just, oh, let's go here because it has some potential. And, it's, as you called it, muskie fishing for brown trout, like going after the big browns, and then also, yes, muskie fishing, be it fly or conventional, like there's an element of gambling on every single trip, just because I'm not going to do the thing that is done by so many people, which is, get a rod bent, boat some fish, keep people happy. Like I want to see that moment for people. And sometimes it doesn't happen. And for the folks that, know what the score is, they understand that it can be a tall order over the course of 4 or even 8 hours. And those are the ones that end up fishing with me more. And those are the ones that end up mousing and fishing for muskie. So I really love it. And it is something that you and your son moused and had a tough couple hours there. And of course, the brown trout did their thing by eating when one was just hanging off the boat, and then eating another one right at the boat ramp. But both of those things, mousing's definitely different. You take away a lot of that visual, why people like streamer fishing, dry fly fishing, but it checks a lot of the same boxes, and it's pretty wild being out there when it's dark. I really, as much as I can try to, I schedule with people to ensure that we're fishing without a moon and try to get us into the stretches with almost no light and not near streets. So I continue to go a little further down every summer, and it's been getting a little spicier. And just looking back at pictures and videos from the last couple of years, I'll go out in April and May, and you'll get activity. We can leave the pre-spawn discussion for another one, but there's a little bit of a pickup in the September, October zone. And it also comes with 50-degree nights and high 40s, and changing water. We're off the summer schedule, so there is a bunch to it, and I appreciate your noticing that I've been going hard at it, and have a pretty booked calendar for the rest of the week, and here and there throughout October, but still enough days off to scratch the itches myself and continue to, find new fish and new zones and new flies and lures and all that.
Yeah. But I think the great thing, right, like we talk about, people should fish the way they want to fish, right? And, that's
Amen.
really, yeah, I mean, but I think the cool thing, right, is, when we started working together, it's been, I guess, a little over 2 years now, you're ecumenical, right? You'll fish with anybody and you'll help them get on fish. But, to be able to build your business, to be able to guide the clients that like to fish the way you like to fish and guide in particular is super cool.
Really appreciate it. I just got goosebumps. Yeah, it's something that has been really hard. And I worked in an office, and um, I played sports. I went to a school. I studied physics. I did things that I think were checked some boxes for people as, rewarding or difficult or, something. I can't. None of those things touch the work that goes into this. And so much of it at this point is just strictly related to how can I teach better? How can I guide better? And yeah, there is a whole lot that goes into it. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you gave up consulting to basically have big brown trout and muskie put cigarettes out on your soul every day, right?
Yeah, which honestly, when you look at it that way, I'm doing the same thing. It's just beating my head against a wall. And at least with the with the browns and the muskies, you can say, well, fishing, cloud cover, make up some other excuses. And with consulting, it'll end up being your head.
Yeah. So I got a question for you from Brenner. He wanted to get your thoughts, and you touched on this a little bit a few minutes ago, but he wanted to get your take on kind of what happens as we start to move into this like early autumn transition and the water temperatures start to change. And what does that do, to fish behavior, and does it make them more aggressive? Kind of what do you expect to see kind of as you get consistently cooler evenings?
Sure. So I will say something that I may have said on a YouTube tying video, which quite honestly, I don't listen to after I record them. And so it could be out in the ether somewhere. I've been looking at this for this will be the 5th year of looking at it. And 2 years ago, I felt like this theory became inarguable. So it's, as we get cooler nights, the sun's shining less. It's the days are shorter. It's also, the angle of the sun is hitting the water with a less direct angle. But that transition point, as you call it, there's something that happens on tailwaters that is roughly unpredictable, but certainly a reason where I start to say early to mid-November, I get real cautious with people wanting to come and fish. And it's because the lakes turn over. The tailwater lakes, it happens in the spring too. And I'm not sure if it's that it isn't known or isn't talked about. It certainly isn't talked about. I haven't talked with anyone who this sounds, where in the discussion it seems like it's a familiar concept to them. So maybe it's because I've just been so 100% fishing streamers for browns, where Marv, you've been on the boat when those bite windows open up, and you've been on the boat when they are closed. You notice it. You can't not. And then when you layer in this montage of, my confidence banks and what I call barometer zones of, all right, we should be getting some form of feedback from, let's say, these different types of presentations, and then sort of adjust. It's zero. It's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Every single spot, 0.0. We're not moving any fish. And I'll see the water turn off, and the fish immediately respond in a positive way. And then when it's turning on, like fishing the rise, it's like that first half of the rise, it's positive and somewhat frantic. It's as though someone's poisoning the water. And they know that nothing is going to be happening until it shuts off again. So as soon as it's coming on, there's this, we need to, it's the last call. And then when it comes off, it's like, oh, thank God. And you see it, you're not seeing herons. You don't see bugs. Ospreys are gone. And honestly, like that is it's such a binary event that I think can be figured out and expanded upon by Brenner, by other guides, by whomever. Um, and it really, relative to the more subtle changes in temperatures, because when you think about the tailwaters, the temperatures, those fluctuations are happening throughout a very large piece of water, and then through convection are finding their way into the river via the bottom of the lake. So when that bottom of the lake changes and the dissolved oxygen content changes, and like there is it's not a freestone river where, as you have falling temperatures, 53 to 55 degrees is an example, crawfish tend to go from more active to more dormant, and maybe you fish jigs, and and these are real things. You start to experiment with whether or not they're picking them up on the fall, on the rise. Trout are less sensitive. Their happy zone with dissolved oxygen content is going to differ by species. It's also going to differ by size and whether or not they're lake fish or river fish. And so there's so many variables just within that it honestly can be hard to discern, because there's also pre-spawn implications. And then I basically stay off of the rivers. They turn into a zoo, both with boats and a very strange form of fishing guide egos during the spawn season. And people fish reds here in East Tennessee. It's pretty alarming. So I try to stay away as much as possible. Fishing risers, fishing to the banks, you're not fishing reds. Like not everyone's spawning at once. So don't think you can't fish during the spawn, but there's all these different things that change, and there certainly is a period of transition here. But I would say that like there's some lore in some different strategies that you should explore as we get deeper into fall and the temperatures start to drop a little bit. But man, I'm two-handing craft fur changers in the second week of January and watching 2-foot trout scream through the water and waking on it when it's the water temperature is 44 degrees. And the same thing is happening at 55 degrees. And so there's, that's post spawn versus a bunch of these other conditions. And I would say that this is another one of those things where, yes, there's a bunch of stuff here that could be influential. There is that big one of, let's try to find out more about that lake turnover thing and dissolved oxygen content. But then otherwise, it's a lot of the stuff that we talk about almost every episode, which is start changing up your cadences, get it in the right spot, and having that thing pause and drop, and fishing weighted flies and experimenting with more of the swimmy, buoyant flies. Like all that stuff's going to play, and you really, pros and cons. The good part is you have to go out and fish hard and try to not be restrained or limit yourself to any one thing. And that's also the other side. So it's good if you like to do that. It's bad if you just want to do one thing. So keeping an open mind and continuing to work the water column and speeds and profile changes is going to do you well.
Yeah, there you go. And, folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email them to us or DM us on social media, or you can even go to the website and send it to us as a voicemail, and you may hear it on the episode. And if we use your question, I will send you some articulate fly swag, and you're a drawing for some cool stuff from Ellis at the end of the season. And Ellis, before I let you go, I know you touched on your calendar a little bit, but you want to let folks know kind of what you have available, how to reach out, and then maybe tell them how excited you are to play with Rit Dye and Borax during deer season.
Yeah. The best way to get information on trips, look at some some cool fish pictures and some flies and all that. Find out more about mousing and muskies is at elliswardflies.com. And I do a decent job of bragging and advertising and trying to communicate to the world what I'm doing on Instagram at Ellis Ward Guides. And best way to reach me, talk about fishing, trips, etc., is my cell phone at 513-543-0019. And I think there is it's microeconomics, but there's a small pocket of inflation that has influenced Forex. So it's like upwards of $7 or $8. If you see it in the store for under $6, which it was, please let me know.
Well, there you go. Well, folks, as I always say, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ellis.
Appreciate it, Marv.